I want to talk to you about a lady I had. This is the moving. The family brought me in. She had severe dementia, and her family was concerned after the husband passed away that they were going to have to move her to be cared for. They had, excuse me, they had tried some in-home care because the husband, when he was alive, had been the primary caregiver, and then he thought I could use a little bit of help here. Well, she hid from the caregiver. When the caregiver came, she literally hid. So the family said after Dad died, we're really worried. We don't think that we can bring somebody in here. Mom didn't do well with a 2-hour person. Now she needs 24-hour care because of her Alzheimer's disease. And I said, let me meet her and see what I think. So I went and I met her. She was very, very happy at her home. She really knew the layout well. It was clear that she didn't want to leave. I introduced myself as a friend of the daughter. I didn't have a name badge. I didn't have a pen. I didn't have a paper because oftentimes just a cup of tea or coffee, and I bring sweets. It'll be different for this generation. I'll have to bring bagels, I think. But so I bring usually something very sweet, some coffee, cake, and I get my little, oh, you seem nice, dear. Sit down, and I can gather all my information without them even knowing who I am. I prefer to have full disclosure, but in this case with this woman, it wouldn't have gone well, so I had to just come as a friend and gather data. We decided to hire some caregivers for her, and it actually went well. And I think it's because she kind of knew that her husband died, and they could hang it on, since he's died and you don't want to move, we're going to have these women live there. She had had boarders as a kid in the house, so we called them boarders. We used her language that was in her long-term memory, and she didn't like them, but I had helped the family vet caregivers who were very good at keeping a low profile. So when she would start to escalate and get excited about who this was, we had hidden a key outside in the event she said, because I have people fire my people all the time, get out. Get away from me, get out, I don't want to be with you. The woman had a key outside that she could let herself back in when the person calmed down. She would also go and read a book in the living room and keep a real low physical profile. So she was able to help with medication, able to help with food and bathing, but it took a very long time for that caregiver to develop rapport. But I sat with the family and we vetted those caregivers together to find just the right person. I put a communication binder in the home because they were private caregivers, not through an agency, and had communication. They wrote about what happened every single day, and I could come and read and give techniques and ideas. I came to find out that these two wonderful caregivers who had been with her for 2 years were sleeping on the floor. These were women who were in their late 40s, as I am. And I thought, Holy Mother of God, how are you guys sleeping on the floor? I have the baby room monitor between you. And they said, well, she gets up at night several times to use the bathroom. And sometimes she's only wrestling in her bed, but we don't know because we hear it on the baby monitor. So we get up, we pad down here, and we see, oh no, she's okay, and we go back to bed. So the technology that I got was what we call a pressure mat. I got a little mat. We told her it was a new rug. When that woman stepped out of bed and not just wrestling in her covers, an alarm chimed in the caregiver's room, and then they got their butts up and came down and got her and took her to the bathroom. And they thought I was a genius. $295, it wasn't cheap, or $195 changed the caregivers' lives. But I had no idea they were sleeping on the floor. But by monitoring, I found this out. But they were getting up several times a day. And they actually stayed with her until she passed away. I certainly help a lot of people move. I don't mean to say that I don't, but in this case, most of my seniors tell me they'd like to stay put. So that's what I try to orchestrate. Tell you a story about a man who had memory loss. He had had a stroke. He was discharged from the hospital into a skilled nursing facility, like a nursing home, with a memory unit. Because of the stroke, they thought he had some memory problems. But the memory unit has a punch code to get out of it. And so he would pace back and forth during the day, and his brother came to visit from out of the state, and he said, you know, I don't know much about this. Maybe this is a fine place for my brother, but could you go see? Because I just don't know if he needs to be there. I can't visit him very often because I'm out of state, but maybe he could come and live with us or come near us. So I went, and I spent time with this gentleman and found out that his stroke had left him sort of in a developmental disability kind of place. He was sweet. He was easily bored. easily distractible, but very, like, he wasn't going to elope from this facility. And he didn't, he was capable of getting dressed with reminders and that sort of thing. And this, I talked with the staff, I read through the medical chart, and I did determine that he really was over-institutionalized. I worked with an agency out of state. The brother went and checked out the homes and came down, got him some anti-anxiety medication for the plane, not the brother, but the person who was in the nursing facility. And he took his brother home, and he called me, and he said, all my kids see him, I see him, my wife sees him, we're 2 blocks away, we see him all the time, this has been great for us. Totally changed the quality of life for this particular gentleman. Mobility. Number one thing people talk to me about is driver's license. Nobody wants to lose their driver's license, and you can go to any number of seminars on that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of fun information, and actually Robin is here, who gave a wonderful lecture on it, and I'm taking some of what she shared with me and using it for this particular client that I'm going to tell you about. A client was really worried about renewing his license, which is not uncommon. And so what I did is I got a certified driving rehab specialist, there are not many of them, but there are some, to come and do a clinical evaluation, which is part 1, and then a road test with him. And usually what they do not share their report with the DMV. This is really something that they do for the person who's asking for it and paying for it. And they say, show me where you drive, show me how you do. And actually, this guy will tell you that he has clients that only make right turns all around the city. Right, to be safe. And that's a coping mechanism, right? A lot of people don't drive at night. My night vision has definitely changed. People don't drive in inclement weather. So there's a lot of good reasons to start to change how you drive. This particular guy was worried he wouldn't pass, so we had the certified driving rehab instructor come with him. And he actually was able to do some retraining with him. He had him look over his shoulder. He had him remember to use his blinker. And this particular gentleman was good on the uptake and able to retrain. But we realized that he really probably wasn't going to be safe on the freeways. So what we did is we asked the DMV to come and find out if he could benefit from a restricted license. And a lot of people don't know what that is. And that is, you get in the car and you show DMV where you go on your route. I go here to get my hair done. I go over here to get my meds. I go to Safeway to grocery shop. I visit my daughter over here. Whatever your little thing is, if you can prove that you can do that safely, the DMV will issue you a restricted license saying, if this is the only place you go, fine. We see you out on 101, you're in trouble. So he was able to drive exactly where he wanted to drive. He wasn't going to go on the freeway. He was perfectly happy to just go in his restricted area, but most people don't even know to ask for that, especially if I have another client who just got a hearing notice. The doctor turned in a note for her license to be suspended, and she's going to fight that. And part of what we'll do is get a certified driving rehab specialist to go out and see her. Meds. So here's the stat. Almost 2 million hospital stays happen for people 65 and over due to adverse reactions. 2/3 from accidental overdose, or the amount prescribed has a more powerful effect than intended. I don't know if you know, but when drugs are going through the FDA process, from what I understand, is they're tested on the 12 and under crowd for like the kids dose, and then they're tested on my age, right, 12 to whatever, 40 or 50. Apparently no testing is done on the delicate bodies of older adults. You don't need to do that. So the same amount of Lipitor I'm going to get is what they're going to give to, perhaps a 90-year-old. There's not a dosage schedule for the pharmacists or the physicians to use. So we have a lot of hospitalizations, a lot from blood thinners, and I happen to have a couple that I went to see, and their medication was everywhere. As care managers, we're actually taught, once we say, can you show me your meds? They say, oh yes, because again, we're in the house. They'll say, here are my meds, and they'll show me their kitchen counter. And then when we say, well, are there any others? Oh yeah, and then you go over here and you go back to the bathroom and you show me there. Are there any others you take? Well, yep. And they go over and they pull out the bedroom drawers. Well, this couple was that. They had them in kitchen drawers. They had them in the bathroom. There were 2 of them. And unfortunately, the husband had Alzheimer's disease, and she didn't want to step on his toes or hurt his feelings, so he got to self-administer. So he needed to have an operation, and they asked him to stop taking his blood thinner 10 days before. He was still driving. And I wasn't part of the picture at this point. And they got him on the gurney, got the IV started, and then somebody just said, so you stopped taking your blood thinner 10 days ago, as we asked, right? Because they didn't want him to bleed during the surgery. They call it bleeding out, I guess. And he's like, oh, no, I've been taking that, just like you told me every day, just like with my other one. That's it. Put your street clothes on, you're out of here. Totally canceled the surgery. So I was called in. And because I'm a professional, I was able to begin to work with him in a way that his wife couldn't, and I put the medications in a Mediset. This is like my favorite thing, you guys. This is mine. I'm like Carol Merrill, because I only take 1 med a day, so this is what I can handle one day. If you're on 2 a day, morning and night, we got the 2 a day. Now you're going to laugh. You see these at Walmart, you laugh. I don't know if I took my med this morning, but if I look in there on Monday and it's empty, I go, I did. Great. So this is the 2. Now this gentleman happened to be on more than that, and so I had the deluxe model of. So this is morning, noon, evening, and bedtime, because a lot of the meds are prescribed at the hour of sleep. Your hypnotics, the things that are going to make you fall, things that are going to, affect you, that go in there. So I came onto the scene, was able to set up his meds, was able to visit regularly, got the blood thinner medication out of there for 10 days, got him to his appointment, and they said this was a game changer for us. He safely got to his appointments. He was taking his meds correctly. And the lady, the wife, said to me when I first came, I don't need you. I don't know what you do. Basically, I don't like you. Don't let the door, And I came back, and I came back, and I came back. And that lady ended up calling me every single day after we had been working together as she was declining. And she'd call me kiddo. Always called me kiddo. How you doing, kiddo? I'm like, good, good. Anyway, I was there when she passed away. So I was able to be with her for a couple of years, and her husband predeceased her, and then she passed away. But we did it without ER visits due to medication errors. Surgeries went smoothly, etc. But medication is a big one. And actually, nowadays, we have the automated dispenser ones. I don't know if you've seen those. You fill up these little cups, and I don't know how they do this, but it just swirls down, bing, and a little chime says, time to take your medication. And there's a light, too. So if you have a visual or a hearing deficit, you can see the light. Well, I'm almost ready for that. If this isn't working, I'm all about that, because you can fill like a whole month's worth in there. And this other client I just got, he takes meds just once at night, so I was able to get him one that's longer, that's day 1 through 15, and then on the other side, it's 16 through 31. So I only have to visit him once to put all that medication in for the month. As long as he knows what day it is, we're good.